When I talk about Mexico, I think to myself that talking about it means talking about diversity and contrast. Amongst many contrasts I have seen throughout my life, and what that keeps being the most impactful can be seen through my bedroom window every single day. I live in a house where I can see the local golf course, with bright green grass and people having fun with their friends on Sundays. However, if you decide to no longer ignore it and turn your sight a little bit to your left, you can see what in Mexico we call a pueblo. A pueblo is a very low-income zone, with houses that don't have paint and often face lack of services and insecurity, which unfortunately is closer to the reality most Mexicans live. I know, these contrasts are very strong, but they're only going to keep increasing because of all the problems that come along with climate change. Climate change is and will be a huge challenge for all of us. However, the ones that will result the most affected are those with the least resources. In fact, the World Bank estimates that if unattended, climate change will push close to 130 million more people into poverty over the next decade and cause 250,000 additional yearly deaths, according to the WHO. These are 130 million more people than should be in this position. How would you feel if you were in this position? What do you see out your window? I've always liked to design and solve problems using my creativity. Alejandro Aravena, Pritzker-awarded architect, once said, "Architecture is about finding imaginative creative solutions to improving people's quality of life." And that is exactly the reason why I fell in love with architecture. More specifically, sustainable architecture, which focuses on having a positive impact on three main aspects: environmental, economic, and social. When I learned that I could someday help reduce this contrast through architecture, I knew I had my life's vision before my eyes. I mean, the world is going to keep building new buildings, so why not doing so in a way that we can all benefit from? We're often told that we live in a world of scarcity. However, I believe the world of sustainable architecture is one of equality and plenty. It is well known that in order to prevent climate change from taking over the world, we must reduce our carbon emissions. The cement industry is responsible for nearly 8% of all these carbon emissions, which surprisingly is more than all of the trucks in the world combined. First, the cement industry needs to mine insane amounts of materials like limestone and clay to later grind them up into a fine powder. This powder is later heated up to extreme temperatures in order to cause a chemical reaction that causes the materials to harden. The thing is, this chemical reaction also causes these materials to expel CO2 into the atmosphere. These processes involve crazy amounts of energy, which unsurprisingly come from non-renewable and contaminant sources. If an impact wants to be made on climate change, then we must reduce our carbon emissions as soon as possible. Buildings account for 40% of all global carbon emissions, which is a lot, I know. But there's a couple ways we can help reduce this number. Sourcing materials locally is one way, reducing the emissions that come with transportation. Opting for greener, cleaner materials like cork or bamboo is also very helpful. New materials are being made for construction each day, ones that have less impact on the environment while also having better overall qualities than their traditional comparisons. We live in the 21st century, and technology has proven to have helped us in an infinity of ways. Architecture is not the exception. We can use technologies like solar panels to create our own clean electricity, or have water treatment plants on our buildings in order to have a better employment of our resources. Design, of course, plays a key role on having less carbon emissions into the atmosphere. Having considerations for illumination and ventilation helps us reduce the amount of energy needed for lighting and cooling. Sustainable architecture also has the power to create affordable housing by reducing building costs. This, of course, without compromising safety and aesthetics. The first way it is able to achieve so is by offering savings on electricity and other resources. Having technologies like solar panels or water captation plants make these buildings as efficient as possible, bringing costs down or eliminating out of the equation. Having these considerations is also seen as a market in the current, is also seen as an improvement in the current market. This causes the market value of the property to increase. The second way it is able to achieve so is by promoting responsible consumption. Sourcing materials locally not only reduces the cost from transportation, but has greater benefits for the community. As the money stays within, people are able to grow their businesses and grow their economy. One of many things that sustainable architecture is looking to do is to equal opportunities for everyone. I've seen it all at work. I've seen sustainable architecture reduce this contrast between wealth and poverty, golf course and pueblo. I've seen sustainable architecture reduce a building cost in order to create affordable living while reducing its carbon impact. As a school, we came together to create a social service project to improve people's quality of life. In order to make this work, we had to commit ourselves to making a difference, which most people will find to be the hardest step to make. We had to understand that if we want to make a difference, we must put our personal interests aside. We have to understand that we are helping this community because of them, not because of us. The community I am speaking about consists of a population of around 90 people. This community, like many others in Mexico and the world, is marginalized because of its low income and secluded location. The streets in this community are unpaved, and it is hard to access. This community faces electricity and water insecurity, as most of the houses are not connected to public supply. Education is hard to reach, and insecurity is around the corner for people in the community. But somehow, the people in the community always manage to have their spirits up. So, here's how we were able to make a difference in this community by building just one sustainable house. The budget we were working with was limited, as most of the money that came for our social service project came through fundraising campaigns the school organized. But this did not stop us from creating a project that not only fulfilled the needs of our family, but allowed them to live inexpensively. The building materials that we used to create this house were developed by one of our teachers here at JFK. So, this building block consisted of compacted soil with an additive made out of nopal, a type of cactus. Production was local, bringing people together, lowering cost, and having little to none impact on the environment. Of course, we use technologies like solar panels, water treatment plants, and water captation plants. This to make the house completely be off the grid. This has been one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in my life. Seeing the smiles on people's faces after the impact we were able to have on the community by sustainable architecture. Seeing the smiles on people's faces after their needs are being met. In 2015, the United Nations came together in order to develop 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And I find it safe to say that if we continue following these steps, we're well on our way to achieving them. So now, I challenge you to look at the contrast in your community and think about where sustainable architecture might be the start of a solution. I know I was impressed by the effects sustainable architecture could have in my community. Efforts are already being made. Efforts to reduce this contrast you and I have witnessed throughout our lives. Sustainable architecture has the potential to reduce this contrast, to have a low impact on the environment while creating affordable housing so that people can live a worthy life. So now, I challenge you to go further, inform yourself, and think about where sustainable architecture might be the answer for many problems in your community. If you're really connected with architecture, I invite you to take part in projects that your school or local government may have. The thing here is, you don't have to build the world's tallest building in order to make a difference. The biggest step you can take right now is to stop ignoring the contrast we are surrounded by. Think about a world with lesser contrasts. Think about a world of sustainable architecture. Thank you.